All right, good enough. We're looking at the organization of the bureaucracy. We have, in the organization, we have 4 different areas. And the first is the executive departments, okay? So we have all these departments. The departments are known as the, what? Should I start over again?
Cabinet.
All right, starting as the cabinets. 15 of those. Okay, what are departments divided up into? What are the smaller areas of departments? All right, bureaus. So here's the Department of Treasury. We have the Bureau of the Mint, the Bureau of Customs, Bureau of Engraving and Printing, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So departments are divided up into bureaus, and bureaus are divided up into offices. So we have the Office of Public Affairs, the Office of Tax Analysis, the Office of the Inspector General. So bureaus and offices are the parts of departments. Okay, our next group here is the dependent agencies, and these are all these different groups here that are smaller than a department, and they're independent of the department too. So these are administrations, or where's my executive agencies. Okay. Now, we also have over here your business run things, and these are your federal corporations. And our others are our regulatory commissions, and each of these make up the bureaucracy. That's the organization. These 4 different areas. Okay? Now, we have examples of each of these. NASA, National Air and Space Administration. An example over here of a corporation is the U.S. Post Office. What's the difference between an executive agency over here and a regulatory commission? What's the difference between those two?
Commissions are independent, right? They don't, like, they're appointed for certain amounts of time, certain terms.
Right, and they cannot be dismissed by the president. So these people are run by a board. And this board, they have certain terms. They have to be bipartisan on the board. So you have to have an equal number of Republicans and Democrats. And examples of these are like the Federal Reserve Board. Anything that regulates something, this is a regulatory commission. The Federal Communications Commission, the Federal Elections Commission, all of these kind of things. Okay, that's the organization. So let's move to the next. What powers do they have? Okay, we're looking at powers here. The most important is the discretionary authority. Okay, what is discretionary authority? What do these people do, Thomas?
So like on the little things that they get to do with their own power, they get to make their own decisions about legislation or whatever they're doing. So it shifts with the stuff.
Excellent. So these are the people who are going to execute the power, and so the bureaucracy gives the details of how to enforce. And they use as a basis the executive orders that the president gives them. Okay? And different people have line authority versus staff authority. Line authority and staff authority are different in what way? Okay, if you're in the line of authority here, like this person, they can make decisions for everything underneath them. That's the line of authority. So this guy can do anything in this area. This guy can make decisions for him and him. This guy can make decisions for all of these. Staff authority are people who work for the treasurer, the secretary of treasurer, on his staff, who give authority and advice into him, and then he makes the decision. They are not the decision makers. If you're in the line of authority, you're a decision maker. If you're in a staff authority, you give information to somebody who is in the line of authority to do so. And that would be an example here of the president. All of these people here have line authority. The people who work in the West Wing over here, these people only have staff authority to give to the president, who then makes the decision. So if you're a decision maker, you're in the line of authority. They also have the power of executive powers. So all of these people are enforcing the law. They also have power, legislative power. That means they can make the what to enforce this law. What are the legislative things that people in the bureaucracy do? All right, the rules. Rules are people in the bureaucracy's laws that they make. They make the rules of enforcement. And then they also have judicial powers, in that if somebody doesn't like a rule, they can appeal its implementation to the bureaucracy. Or if the bureaucracy doesn't give them just results, they can appeal it to the courts. So these are the powers of the bureaucracy. Okay? Now let's look at our two triangles here in the policy-making process. You have the iron triangle, which is in the formulation of policy, and you have the dissident triangle, which does what?
Sense.
That's involved in what part of policy? Let's go back to that thing. What part of policy here? All right, evaluation. So this is policy evaluation. Now, who are the people in our triangle? So here in the iron triangle, here you have input done by who? All right, could be interest groups. Who else can give input? People, parties, elections. All of these can give input here. Over here at the top of the triangle is Congress. Congress, on its committees, will help in the formulation of this policy. And then over here on the other side is the bureaucracy. And what does the bureaucracy, what part do they have in this policy formulation? All right, they have input in that they're the ones that are going to have to implement it. They say, we can't implement it that way. So Congress changed the law so we can implement it. Okay? So as a result, they are this part of the triangle. Now we go back to the dissident triangle. Who in the bureaucracy is down here in the dissident triangle?
Media.
No. Who in the is the bureaucracy in the media? No. Who's over here? This is a whistleblower. Somebody in the bureaucracy who's been disaffected, who's been messed over. So you got the whistleblower here. The whistleblower will say, hey, we've got a problem. Who will they take that problem to? to the media. And then both the media and the dissident triangle person who's from the bureaucracy, this whistleblower, they will go to a congressional individual, a congressman, or they will go to a congressional committee, and they will testify, and this will get out in the public, saying something is wrong here. So here we have the bureaucracy involved here, the bureaucracy is involved up here, and so we have a two-part thing in evaluation of policy. Okay, number 4, problems here. Okay, let's look at our problems in a bureaucracy. One is imperialism. What is bureaucratic imperialism? Andreas, what happens? It's a tendency in all bureaucracies to what?
Try to get more power.
All right, get power and expand. So bureaucracies tend to expand. Okay. Results. Parkinson's law, which said work expands to fit the time we have to do it in. Or the Peter principle. You go up in the bureaucracy to your level of what? Incompetence. And when you reach your level of incompetence, you stop and you're done. So the person at the top of every level in the bureaucracy is incompetent, because that's where they've stopped. Yeah. Our next is this idea of duplication. In the bureaucracy, we have different people doing similar things. Like you have the Customs Bureau, and you also have the Immigration Bureau also patrolling the borders. And so you get different people doing the same kind of things, which results in duplication and all sorts of other issues that relate to that kind of duplication of service. We also have paperwork. Paperwork is also involved with what we call red tape. The more screw-ups that we have in an activity, what do we get more of? More red tape. So the more people mess up, the more red tape. You know the rule of memos that we talked about? Why is a memo written?
Oh, you have to protect yourself.
All right, a memo's written not to inform the person who violated a policy, but to protect the person who wrote the memo, that they're not at fault. Okay? I didn't need to know that the principal was mad at me at the Sterling Scholar Assembly. She wrote a memo not to inform me of what I did. I knew what I did. I proposed to my wife. But she wrote to protect herself, that she had informed me that this is not something. Now you remember that part of history. All this good stuff we talked about. The blame game. In a bureaucracy, you blame the person in front, above you, or below you. You're never at fault. It's always the people below you that didn't give you right information, or the people above you who won't let you do it. And that's one of the issues that can go on in a bureaucracy. Red tape. What causes red tape? Messes. People who don't function like they're supposed to. If you cut red tape, then you open yourself up to more mistakes. And the last one is conflict. Conflict will result when you've got two different agencies trying to accomplish two different results. For example, you've got one, the agriculture department, which wants to promote the better use of cheese and make people have better pizza with a richer cheese product. So they're promoting agriculture by doing that, but then you got people who want you to have a more healthy diet, the Surgeon General or whatever else who said don't eat cheese with a lot of fat in it. So you got two different agencies trying to accomplish two opposite tasks, which causes issues as well. Okay, number 5. What about reform? Okay, we know the history of this, and the big reform was the Pendleton Act, so we put that at the top. Pendleton Act of 1883 set up today's merit system, or Civil Service Commission. Took government system out of politics and put it into merit. What was the cause of that?
Garfield got assassinated.
All right, the assassination of President Garfield. Very good. That set up this whole system. So now we have merit determined by exams, and you're put on the GS schedule. Merit determined by your classification. We also have the Hatch Act. What did the Hatch Act reform? What did it say? That's why we need to bring our binders. It said no participation in partisan politics. Okay. So the Hatch Act said that if you're a member of this civil service, you can't run as a Republican or Democrat for various offices. So we tried to take it out of politics. You may participate with the 1992 amendments, but still you cannot be political during government business hours, and you still may run for office, you still may not run for office, but you can run for office in nonpartisan, like school boards. If it's not Republican, Democrat, partisan, you can now participate. Then the Taft-Hartley Act did what to the civil service? No strikes. If you're a public employee, you cannot strike. So that was a huge reform. Then we've also had major commissions, like the Hoover Commission, the Grace Commission, and even Al Gore, when he was vice president during the 90s, he had a Gore Commission that tried to revise the bureaucracy and make it more functional. Okay? And our last one is explaining its relationships with the others. We can have this under controlling the bureaucracy. How can we control the bureaucracy? External forces. President. How can the president control the bureaucracy?
Executive orders.
Okay. Executive orders. Very good one. You can tell them how to enforce. So these are its relationships with the other branches. Congress. How can Congress control the bureaucracy?
Sets the legislation.
Okay. They can zero funding. They can pass a law to say we want a new Department of Education, or we want a Department of Homeland Security, which they just created. So they can create, they can destroy through the budgetary powers. The courts. How can the courts control the bureaucracy?
Rule against bureaucratic power.
Rule against what?
Appeals.
Rule against rules. So the bureaucracy makes a rule saying this is the way we're going to enforce. The courts could say that's unconstitutional. You're going beyond your powers when you make that rule. Okay? Interest groups. How can interest groups affect the bureaucracy?
Influence.
Okay, where?
People.
What does a bureaucracy have that gives input? They have hearings. Every time they make new rules, they have a hearing. And you look in the Federal Register and you can see when the hearings are going to be held. And so they can give input through hearings. They can give input through congressional committees who might have oversight over the bureaucracy. You might have a committee investigating a bureaucracy. They can go testify at the congressional hearing. And the media. How can the media influence the bureaucracy? All right, watchdog, that's a good one. And they are part of the what triangle? The dissident triangle. So they're on the evaluation with the watchdog. They listen to whistleblowers. So all of these people have some control of the bureaucracy. Now, internal controls, we talked about this, the formal, where you can go through all the process to fire somebody. And then, of course, we have the informal, where you can transfer them. You can say, all right, we're going to give you a great recommendation if you resign. Give them a special assignment in Alaska. Or you can put somebody over them who you know they won't like and eventually leave. So you have internal controls here and external controls back here. So the bureaucracy can be controlled. It's a little more difficult, but it can be. All right, we are done for today. If you want to go through a test, we've got those over here.